What if the world's supply of new smartphones just stopped? I mean, not a slowdown, but a complete and total shutdown. It sounds pretty impossible, right? But the crazy, complex global system that builds the devices in our pockets has this hidden, single point of failure. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the paradox that could bring the entire tech industry to a grinding halt.
Seriously, just take a second and picture it. No new phones. At all. Production lines everywhere just go silent. The device that connects billions of us to the world suddenly becomes this finite, precious resource. It feels like something out of a sci-fi movie, but the vulnerability is very, very real.
So how on earth could one single event in one specific part of the world cause such a catastrophic breakdown? Well, the answer lies in a critical dependency that the entire tech industry seems to be, well, ignoring. Let's dig in.
Okay, Section 1, the day without smartphones. To really get our heads around this, let's walk through a disastrous scenario. It's hypothetical, yeah? But it's also entirely plausible, and it exposes the system's absolute core weakness. So picture this. The date is March 2nd, 2026. A drone attack, hypothetically, targets the 3 massive helium production facilities in Ras Laffan, Qatar. And just like that, in an instant, production stops completely. The world has just lost its single largest source of helium.
And to understand just how big a deal this is, think about this number. Overnight, almost 40% of the entire global supply of helium just vanishes. This isn't some small disruption. This is a massive, immediate shock to the whole system. And the scariest part? Right now, nobody has a plan B. All right, Section 2, the 9-month crisis. Now, what's really fascinating here is that the fallout isn't instantaneous. It's more like a cascading failure, a slow-motion catastrophe that unfolds over the next 9 months.
You know, the chaos in the supply chain kicks in within just 2 weeks as everyone scrambles. By month 3, you see the first factories actually going dark. Fast forward to month 6, and even the giants like Samsung and SK Hynix have burned through their 6-month stockpiles. They're running on empty. And by the 9-month mark, we are looking at a full-blown industry-wide shutdown.
And if you want to see this exposure in the real world, just look at South Korea, a global hub for electronics manufacturing. They get nearly 65% of all their helium directly from Qatar. When that supply line is severed, one of the world's most important tech industries is just left completely stranded.
Section 3, helium, the invisible element. So this all begs the crucial question, why? What is it about this one gas, helium, that makes it so absolutely essential for making every single smartphone? The answer is buried deep in the manufacturing process itself.
Okay, so helium basically plays 2 critical roles. First, it's used for super intense cooling when they're making the chips. And second, because its molecules are so tiny and it's chemically inert, it's perfect for incredibly precise leak testing when they seal the displays. You literally can't just swap it out for something else without a massive, multi-year overhaul of the entire process.
All right, Section 4, why no one prepares. This brings us right to the core of the paradox. I mean, if this risk is so huge, why isn't anyone preparing for it? Well, the answer comes down to some very simple and, frankly, very dangerous economics.
Just look at this. Helium, this absolutely essential, can't-live-without-it element, makes up a tiny, almost irrelevant fraction of total production costs, just 0.3%. It's so cheap, it's practically invisible on a corporate balance sheet.
Now compare that tiny number to the cost of actually building a backup plan, investing in different sources or beefing up recycling. That would cost somewhere between 2 and 4% of total production costs. So if you're a CEO focused on this quarter's results, spending that extra money is a total non-starter.
And this quote just perfectly captures the corporate mindset. The costs are certain and immediate. The risk is uncertain and later. It's like, why would I spend real money today to protect against a theoretical risk that might happen tomorrow? The entire incentive structure rewards saving money now, not building resilience for later.
And to make it all worse, you've got the classic free rider problem. If Samsung, for example, invests millions to develop a new helium source, its competitor, SK Hynix, gets all the benefits for free. So what does everyone do? They wait for someone else to blink first. It's a total market failure, and it's driven by what seem like perfectly rational decisions by each company.
Okay, Section 5, the search for Plan B. So what about a backup plan? Surely there are other places on Earth to get helium, right? Well, yes, but the most critical problem isn't availability, it's time.
Let's just look at the options. The US has a strategic reserve, but it's being sold off and it's not going to last forever. Russia has a massive facility that could, in theory, supply a third of the world's needs, but it's bogged down with development problems and, well, geopolitical tensions. And then there's Tanzania, which has the world's largest known deposit, but political instability has delayed production for years and years.
And this right here is the single most important number in this entire explainer. Bringing any new major source of helium online, from getting the permits to actually producing the gas, takes 5 to 7 years. That means if a crisis hits today, a real solution won't arrive until the 2030s. The industry can't react, it can only prepare. And right now, it's not preparing.
You know, what's really frustrating is that a partial solution is already staring us in the face. We could, theoretically, recycle up to 80% of the helium used in manufacturing. But right now, we only recycle about 15 to 20%. The investment just doesn't seem to make sense when the gas is so cheap and no one is forcing the issue.
All right, Section 6, a geopolitical time bomb. So let's connect this all back to the real world. This is not just some hypothetical exercise. The region where all this helium comes from is, frankly, a geopolitical time bomb.
All of Qatar's helium has to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most volatile and critical shipping lanes on the entire planet. Any regional conflict, especially one involving Iran, could block those exports without a single drone ever needing to target the facilities themselves. The number of things that could go wrong is just constantly increasing.
So what is the actual risk here? Well, analysts estimate that the probability of a major supply disruption within the next 5 years is as high as 35%. This isn't some distant 1 in a million chance we're talking about. It's a significant, quantifiable threat that's on the horizon.
And this really brings us to the bottom line. It's a classic failure of imagination. The industry is operating as if the stability we've seen for the last decade is just going to continue forever, confusing the fact that a disaster hasn't happened yet with the idea that it's unlikely to happen at all.
So here's the paradox in full. The economics make preparing for a crisis seem irrational, and the long timeline makes reacting to one totally impossible. The industry is trapped, basically waiting for a shock it knows it can't absorb. So the only real question left is, what happens to our connected world when that shock finally arrives?